secrecy and deceit, impatience, irritation, and misery when use is interrupted or curtailed, inability to concentrate, realization that all is not well, but a devastating inability to change behavior. That last point encapsulates the misery of addiction. Even when we know it's ruining our life and would love to be free of it, escape can seem impossible. Why? Because we think there is only one way out: the hard way. Whether you're simply concerned about your tech use, struggling to limit it, or in deep despair as a result of digital addiction, this book is for you. The common belief is that addictions cannot be conquered without tremendous willpower, suffering, and deprivation. But this book will show you the beautiful truth. There is another way. My story. I discovered this for myself 20 years ago when I went to Allen Carr's centre in London just to satisfy my wife's increasingly desperate requests for me to quit smoking. I had no faith in Allen Carr being able to help me. I smoked 80 a day and had given up all hope of ever being able to quit. I wasn't happy that I smoked, but I believed it was my fate, and all attempts to convince me otherwise were pointless. No one was more surprised than I was, and perhaps my wife, that I walked out of that seminar convinced that I would never smoke again. What I experienced was completely different from my previous attempts to quit by using willpower, substitutes like nicotine gum, and pretty much every quit-smoking method or gimmick known to humanity. By the time I finished Allen Carr's program, I knew I no longer had any desire to smoke, and so I didn't need willpower. I realized that my fears about life without cigarettes were unfounded. I started enjoying social occasions more and handling stress better than I had as a smoker. There was no feeling of deprivation or missing out. On the contrary, I felt hugely relieved and elated that I was finally free. I felt like I'd been cured of the worst disease I could possibly have. For a third of a century, Allen had also been a chain smoker, puffing his way through 60 to 100 cigarettes a day. With the exception of acupuncture, he had tried all the conventional and unconventional methods to quit. Eventually, like me, he gave up even trying to quit, believing, once a smoker, always a smoker, and resigned himself to a premature death. Then he made a discovery that inspired him to try again. As he described it, I went overnight from 100 cigarettes a day to 0, without any bad temper or sense of loss, void, or depression. On the contrary, I actually enjoyed the process. I knew I was already a non-smoker even before I had extinguished my final cigarette, and I've never had the slightest urge to smoke since. This is the outstanding feature of Easy Way. Unlike the willpower method, it enables you to conquer your addiction easily, immediately, and painlessly, without using willpower, aids, substitutes, or gimmicks, without suffering depression or withdrawal symptoms, without turning to alternative obsessions like overeating. So successful has Easy Way been that there are now Allen Carr's Easy Way centres in more than 150 cities in 50 countries worldwide. Best-selling books based on his method are translated into over 40 languages, with more being added each year. The method has now helped tens of millions of people to quit smoking, alcohol, and other drug addictions, as well as sugar addiction, gambling, overeating, overspending, and fear of flying. I was so inspired by Allen and what I saw as his miraculous method that I hassled and harangued him and Robin Haley, now chairman of Allen.